United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call for a roll call vote, or roll call, excuse me.
Crowner?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Lees?
Here.
Young?
Here.
Covert?
Okay. Take a moment here and we'll approve the agenda.
Motion to approve is presented. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. We have a consent agenda consisting of 3 items. I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve is presented. Also second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Move into our staff and council reports. So, Greg?
Thank you, Your Honor. Monday, we had zoning steering committee and comp plan steering committee meetings. Good sessions, I felt, and we'll be meeting again on the 21st, was it? Not the 21st.
18th
the 18th of November.
For the comp
The
plan.
information was due on the 21st. Prairie planting is at about 10:15 at Pat Klein, if you're interested and want to get a little dirty and participate. Gear Avenue turn lane, we had a request to add a left turn lane heading south just on the, just past the Highway 34 as you're heading south. And we're taking a look at that. We've asked them to get something in writing from SCC indicating that they were willing to give up a little bit of space for their left turn lane as well. But I think we should be able to accommodate a left turn lane in there to get at least 2 cars for stacking. The property owner had Matt French Reniker take a look at it, hired him to take a look at it. So it looks like it will fit well. And then Chase mentioned down by Casey's, it may make sense to do a left turn lane there as well. So we're going to take a look at that new business there. So we'll work on getting those done as long as it meets requirements. Arts, we had an arts call today. I thought that was pretty interesting. They're going to be doing a lot of public engagement throughout the community a number of different times here in the next couple months. And then we're also going to be talking about, with the Art Center, hosting some art out here related to West Burlington, some watercolors that they're going to be getting. So I thought that'd be kind of interesting. And had a good call with the auditors today. We're going to send some revised responses to them, and hopefully we'll get that wrapped up and on the council agenda. So.
Greg, on that left turn lane, how far is that? Where, exactly where's?
It'd be as you're heading south, go over the highway. First entrance on the left-hand side of the road.
So to be able to turn into that the rental.
And then ultimately the other vacant property as well.
And that,
Order to make it more marketable, get it sold. Seems like a reasonable request. There's plenty of space in there. In fact, you could probably turn the whole thing into a center turn lane, but it's really not necessary along there because there's really no other entrances involved. So maybe make this tweak and a minor tweak on the other side of
there'd be no
Gear.
repaving, it'd just be remarking.
Just painting, and I mentioned that to the individual that was making the request, that there'd be some cost associated with paint removal and time. So.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Chase?
We just replaced 3 hydrants last week. We're in the middle of flushing right now, about done. Planted some trees along the trail in the park. I think we planted about 25 The DOT is gonna be working on the overpass on Broadway, starting tomorrow. Sometime later this month, I guess we'll go down to one lane with a flagger for a little bit, so.
On the overpass portion or the underpass portion?
Under.
The underpass
The under?
portion.
Yep, I don't know much about it yet. I just got told that by the DOT, so.
How's the situation for planting on this weekend?
We're gonna we gotta tear up sod tomorrow, so, and then they want a grid painted out for the students, so we're gonna do that too. And then they need mulch for afterwards, so.
Okay.
We cut down two dead trees out of the way for them last week, so.
They said something about removing the stumps. Is that?
Yeah, those are out.
Thank you. Jesse, anything?
We did fire prevention last week for the fire department. We did West Burlington Elementary preschool and kindergarten class. And then we also went to the SCC and hospital daycare preschool area out there and spoke to the kids. And then our annual Shop with a Cop is on December 14th. We do approximately 30 kids. I believe it's third grade through West Burlington, through Des Moines County. All law enforcement participates that day, and we'll have a couple kids from West Burlington. We'll have a couple officers with them, so it's coming up in December.
Okay. Anything from clerk or finance?
They're attending IMFOA this week,
Okay.
today and tomorrow. Iowa Municipal Finance Officers Association. Sounds like a fun couple days.
Yeah. Where's that located?
Des Moines.
One. Okay, any other staff reports? Okay. Let's go to council. Melanie?
Just a couple notes, if you will. We had a good comprehensive planning meeting, and this last Monday night had about 9 people participate in it. It was interactive and helped putting together ideas for where the community, we'd like to see the community go in the next 20 years or so. So very, very good input, and that's part of the whole plan we work on for the year now. Had a good arts, sustaining community arts and culture call today with the University of Iowa students. A lot of good ideas, and hopefully we'll have something we can present here down the road. But they will be in the community this weekend, taking input from, kind of doing a survey, if you will. They have a questionnaire survey they'll be working with both at the Monster Mash at the Recplex and at Witches Night Out downtown Burlington. And this is one of the committees that is both a Burlington, West Burlington committee. And I hope they end up out at the mall too. We threw that out there in that, I guess we've got Hedda Gilbert going on at the mall, and I didn't realize that. I knew the Alzheimer Walk is going on at the mall this weekend on Saturday, but so is the big Hedda Gilbert sale, which usually draws a lot of people. So anyway, maybe all those things overlap a little bit, but that's a good segue into this Saturday morning is the Alzheimer's Walk from the mall. It starts about 9 o'clock in the morning out there, the walk and recognition of people. So anybody can participate, love it, love to have you. Just a shout out to the West Burlington Community School District doing a great homecoming celebration last week. Friday night was fun. It's always fun to win whatever game or any competition, but just the number of people who were there and how the flow of the whole evening went, and the weather helped too, and just the number of people. So nice job, West Burlington Community School. Really appreciate it. Last but not least, it looks like we got the trail ribbon cutting on October 30th.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Everybody, right?
I think that's set in stone now.
Yes.
Okay.
We all think so. Cool. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Therese?
I have nothing, thanks.
All right. John?
I want to echo what Melanie said about the homecoming. It was an awesome homecoming. There was tons of people there, and I also wanted to put out a big thank you for the police officer that was there. We didn't need him or anything, but he was just mingling with the kids, and the kids were just like hanging around him. That's good to see.
The Officer McCampbell.
Yeah, and they were just hanging around him, and that's a good thing. So
Andy?
3 quick things. Number one, I hadn't seen this anywhere yet, but the public officials reception that the chamber hosts every year is going to be December 10th from 5 to 7 down at the Art Center. And that's a pretty informal event. Usually my favorite one to go to because you just get to go mingle and have a drink. So December 10th.
Tuesday, that's a Tuesday.
And then second, I mentioned this a couple months ago, but my 5th year of being on the Convention and Tourism Board for our West Burlington seat is about to come to the close. And if someone would pick that baton up, I would be happy to pass it off here for the next year going forward. Our last meeting's in the middle of December, so they would pick it up probably in February would be the first meeting. So if we want to get that on an agenda item to nominate somebody or somebody raise their hand and do it, I think that'd be good for somebody to be involved. And lastly, kind of last minute, Greg and I were invited to go meet with the governor and tour through deep root irrigation last week. And that was really interesting and got her take on not only that company, but also the ground out there and in general, and kind of put some bugs in her ear about funding for roads and that site in general in the future. So we were, it was a good tour. We got a lot of information about Deep Root, and the governor really just sat and listened. And I think it was worthwhile to have her there and see some of the issues that we have in the area too. So it may help us in the future on funding as we look at a road and trying to get those sites up and get some more manufacturing in place out there. So I think that was good, and I appreciate the chamber inviting us along. That's all.
Thank you. I have a couple. One, just want to suggest that we kind of take a look at the usage of this particular room for community, small group type activities where people might come in and have a committee meeting or something like that, and maybe make sure that it's not something that becomes so expensive that the community members don't feel that they want to try to have a small activity in this area. I've talked with the head librarian about having something here, with the library connected to it, but I also thought there might be other community groups that would like to be able to use a small setting that's not, just a table set up or something like that wouldn't cost us much to be able to offer this room for that sort of thing. So my other one is I'm working with Greg on trying to come up with a resolution that would create a youth council. My idea behind it is it ties some of our youth into what we do as a city council, and we get their impressions of how things that they would like to see us kind of work towards, and then gives them the opportunity to do projects which might be silver cord hours for them or be something that would supplement what we're working on also. So, but I'll bring that back to the council when I've kind of got the outline a little better on it. So those are a couple of my things. And with that, then, I suspect we had better go to citizen inquiries, and I believe we have somebody who'd like to speak. If you want to come up and sit down here, I'll let you introduce yourself,
You want me to sit down here?
or stand, whichever you want to do.
Sure. Well, good evening, everyone. I wanted to introduce myself. I am Nanette Griffin, and I am running for Senate District 50. So that includes this area, Burlington, South Des Moines County, and all of Lee County. I was actually grown up and graduated from Burlington. My parents were Jim and Janet Hankst, so I have somebody in common up here on the council. But about 30 years ago, my husband and I opened up our own business, Griffin Muffler and Brake Center, in Fort Madison, and we grew that business. We are lucky now. We have a young kid that is buying it from us. So my husband's retired. I'm semi-retired. So that gives me plenty of time on my hands to be able to see how I can help the community. While we were in Fort Madison, I've served as treasurer for 2 terms on the chamber. We also put on the Balloons Over the Mississippi event. I don't know if anybody here remembers that by chance. So we would have about 10,000 people come for the weekend, and my husband and I, with a handful of volunteers, put that on as a free event for the tri-state area. So I'm used to giving back to the community that has helped us grow. And when I won the Woman Entrepreneur of the Year for the state of Iowa in 2023, I was approached to see if this would be my next step in my career, and I did say yes to it. So, of course, I want to make sure my forte is small businesses, obviously, to help our main streets, our small businesses, be successful and sustainable both. So I've been asked to speak at the entrepreneur classes and small business classes at SEC to help give those students that are thinking about opening up a business a little bit of an idea of what that does take. And then our business, I don't know if you have heard of Creating Entrepreneur Opportunities. It is a new program in Lee County that's open up to Lee County students. We have committed for a 3-year sponsorship to get that off the ground. We have 18 students that are attending that. They learn what it takes to become a small business entrepreneur. They actually have to have a plan, go out into the public, and whether they are successful or fail, it is a learning experience for them. So, and then also, you know, just making sure that our workers that we have in our tri-state area are able to work, make a decent living, and work in safe environments. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with what is going on with the Iowa State Penitentiary right now, but the correctional officers are unable to collective bargain. So basically we are underfunded, understaffed, and overworked. I live right across the street from the state penitentiary. I've been there longer than they have. I wouldn't move there by choice. But we've had 3 we've had 3 assaults within a week's time on the officers over there. One of them, they pulled off a metal leg on their desk in their cell and stabbed a guard 11 times. It was a good thing he had a heavy coat on. It just basically broke his skin. Another one has his nose broken to spots. And then we also had a month ago an attempted escape. So that inmate got over the first fence, through the razor wire, and was headed to the second fence before he was apprehended. And the guards in the tower were finishing a 17-hour shift. So can you imagine working 17 hours in those conditions? But we need to have people over there to keep our community safe. So I'm running to try to help, you know, our community, your community, in anything that we can, and to see what could I help West Burlington with. So does anybody have any questions for me? Well, I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to our new business, old business, excuse me. We had consider a supplemental agreement with Snyder and Associates for engineering services related to Phase 2 of the Gear Avenue Trail Project. And I believe we have some people here from Snyder, if you want to come up then.
Hello, thank you. My name's Dax. I'm with Snyder and Associates. We're the consultant for the Gear Avenue Trail Extension Project and also doing the construction services on that project. I provided a request for supplemental agreement number 2. This is additional scope, additional fee for our construction services on the project. Described in the supplemental agreement, generally there's construction administration tasks that focused on assisting the RPA staff with their tasks on the project. Even though they have a separate contract with the city for the work they're doing, we were still involved with assisting them with submitting the documents that they needed for the DOT federal aid and making sure that they knew what they needed to be supplying for the project to remain in compliance. Task B was some additional shop drawing and material reviews. Generally, that was additional bridge shop drawings that needed structural review, multiple revisions throughout the project that we needed to make sure met the federal aid requirements for Buy America, and also were compliant with the plans and specifications for the project. Task C is some additional construction observation on the project. We assisted the city with some observation tasks on items that didn't necessarily require DOT testing or a DOT certified inspector, but we helped out with those. And then there was some additional topographic survey that was needed to be completed to confirm some of the construction items met the plans and specifications, as well as an additional 21 working days that were added to the project, so covering the observation needed for that additional time. And then task D is progress payments. When we set up the budget for our construction services, we knew that the city preferred to do one payment per month. The DOT specs allow the contractor to request 2 payments per month, which they did. So we essentially had to do twice as many payment requests as we had planned for. I did hand out before the meeting this document. Everyone should have a copy for a couple reasons. One, I think it's a little bit easier to read than the attachment that was on the agenda, which has a lot of numbers, a lot of information that might be hard to figure out what I was trying to say in that. So this just breaks down each task item that's in the supplemental agreement and the associated fee for that. And then it also does just illustrate, I guess, our communication with city staff throughout the project, just letting you guys know, where we're at with the budget, what we have left remaining to do on the project, how much budget we had left, and just kind of keeping everyone aware of like where we're at. So that's all I have. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
On task B, when you talk about the multiple revisions on the bridge, why were those multiple revisions there?
So it was generally more, not really revisions to the bridge, but more of the shop drawings that were submitted by the contractor didn't necessarily meet all of the requirements for the federal aid, or they didn't meet the plans and specification details on the project. So when we're checking those, we're checking dimensions of reinforcing steel, spacing, the material type, where it comes from, where it's manufactured, where it's milled. All of that stuff has to be in compliance with the plans and specs, and then also with the requirements of the federal aid.
But didn't we know that when we started? I mean, shouldn't have we known?
We know what's required. Unfortunately, with low bidding laws in Iowa, we're kind of at the mercy of who gets the project and how familiar they are with the specifications, the details, the federal aid requirements. And so unfortunately, when they submit something, if it doesn't have everything correct, we need to send it back, ask them to revise certain things, and then get it back and re-review everything.
So when you send us an amount that we got to pay you, you don't take that into consideration?
We make some assumptions at the beginning on how much time we think it's going to take to review. And if there is some re-review, we build that in. But on this, unfortunately, there was a little bit additional re-review that was needed.
You have a comment on your other, the one that was in our original packet, significant time reviewing incomplete or non-compliant material resubmittals. Is that the same issue you're talking about?
Yeah, that's that task, yes.
There at the end, you said something about communicating with staff and stuff.
Yeah, that's just in this handout that I put on the desk there. So there's, if you start at the back, back in May, we were just communicating, letting you guys know that, at this point we've spent about 50% of our construction services budget. And then if you work your way back through these pages in July, we let everyone know that, we have about this much budget left. And then at the end of August, we were just communicating that, hey, we've spent our budget on the project, but we still have a little bit left to get to the finish line.
Could you dive into task C a little more?
Yeah.
It helped us observe describe that in more detail. Was it something we asked you to do?
So when we were budgeting for our construction services, there are certain things that a certified technician needs to be on site for. So like testing concrete, checking reinforcing steel certifications, certain things like that. So those are the things that we have to be there for because our inspector has the certifications. Our understanding was that the city was going to kind of cover some of the other stuff that didn't require any testing, didn't require certifications. Unfortunately, I know Chase's group has been busy all year, so they haven't necessarily been available to help with that. So on those instances, we were on site.
So do you have a list of how many hours you allot for what we said, or what we paid you for?
Yeah.
I mean, not what you did, but when you submitted our,
Yeah.
you
So
have,
that's generally what is in this attachment on the agenda. There's a column of the budget hours, and so that's what we had budgeted for those specific tasks. Answers your question.
so you under budgeted those hours is what you did.
I guess you could say that, yeah. We
I'd probably
we tried to create a budget based on what we thought it was going to take to complete the construction services.
I don't have a problem with a lot of this. The only issue I'm having really is the part where you're talking about another subcontractor caused you more work and therefore us more dollars. So is there any way to go back and get that out of those payments to them and cover some of that cost?
That's what, so we had a first conversation on this last week, and then we followed up yesterday.
Yep.
And that was one of my concerns or main points. A lot of this is not
Snyder's fault, right?
city's responsibility or fault or Snyder's fault, but there's no way to go back on that.
They're fully
on
paid
the contractor. Well, there's no method in the state DOT contract to go after the contractor for these expenses.
There's no.
Go ahead.
I'll let you finish, Greg.
There's no real remedy in this case. There are liquidated, well, they don't call it liquidated damages in the state, but if you said they had 2 working days left, I think?
Yeah.
If they go over those working days, would be some liquidated damages. We've had 2 conversations last week and this week, and I just was pretty blunt, or not blunt, but I just gave my honest feedback on some of these, and I came to about 10,750. I told Dax, the topo survey was required, it's necessary. I think that was also ADA related. At that location, we needed to make sure that was going to work, and for that piece of it. And I understand the construction observation and the added working days. That bridge was a complicated mess early on, and really kind of put a wrench in things. The other items, and I was up front with Dax, I felt were really more contractor questions based on the engineering documents, the normal course of business, part of the job, working with regional planning. The vouchers, DOT allows for 1 or 2 vouchers per month. We typically do 1, but DOT allows that, should be aware of that and factored in to the cost. So that's kind of where I fell on the overall numbers, but wanted Dax to have the opportunity to come and present his case to council, and that's why Dax is here tonight. And
Who is ultimately responsible for hiring the people that ended up submitting these things that were incorrect?
So the DOT goes through a public bidding process just as you do on your local projects. And they're not required, but most times they award the project to the low bidder. In this case, I think we only had 2 bidders. And they were quite a bit apart on their price. So the low bidder is the prime contractor, and then they have subcontractors. So We receive all of the documents from the prime. They're receiving them from their subs.
Right. The general is the same contractor this time as it was on the previous section,
Yeah.
where there were 0 issues, to my knowledge.
The general chose these subs then?
The general chooses the subs. The subs do have to still be in a certain program to work
Sure.
on DOT projects. Yeah, they choose their subs.
And how much of this is due to originally cutting those stoplights right in the beginning?
None of this is part of that. If you notice on the attachment, I have a column for not billable. None of
Okay.
that time is included.
Okay.
And I guess just to go back to your question about, I think it was related to any opportunity to recover some of the costs that's incurred because of the resubmittals. We don't have a mechanism to bill the contractor for our role on that. And they're paid just for the construction work, so none of the payment items can be withheld for those.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg mentioned liquidated damages in the contract. Those are really just for any overages on the schedule, if the project takes more working days than we're allowed.
Chase, you agree that we asked them to observe things that originally wasn't in the quote?
I guess.
I don't know if that's the right question. I mean,
Okay.
so as you go through the project, I mean, Sean's out there every time they're pouring, for example, down there every Wednesday doing things that he needs to do for DOT as well. We don't have the ability to dictate the contractors or the subcontractors' means and methods. That's the word I was looking for. We don't have the ability to dictate that. Should they have done it differently? Would we have done it differently? Would we have suggested they do it differently? I think Sean did suggest they do it a little bit differently, and at the end, they agreed they probably should have done it a little differently, but we don't have the ability to dictate means and methods, so the
I'm
way
just
they
talking
poured.
about the observation piece that you
Right.
mentioned.
But it
You
goes-
thought we would be doing part of it, and then we asked you to do. That's what I heard, correct?
There was,
At the beginning of
Yeah.
at the beginning of the discussion, we asked if there was if there was the potential for us to maybe get certified, nothing definitive. It's still something we're trying to take a look at so that Sean wouldn't have to be down here for every Wednesday, really is what it comes down to. It's really not the other stuff where he's monitoring the daily work that's going on. But I think more of the time was related to the daily work and their means and methods than anything else. They could have done, short pours, having him come down here for those issues, when they could have done a much longer pour, been more efficient with the job, those types of things. We have no control over those. And neither does the engineer. We can make suggestions, but the means and methods are out of our control.
So what you mean by that, instead of doing one long pour that took one visit, you had to do 6 pours that took 6 separate visits?
They go from one end of the trail, do a little bit here, and then they go to the other end of the trail and do a little bit here. And so just
Instead of doing it all.
long stretch.
That type of thing, so it caused more visits.
So then
by-
Sean would have to come down here.
Yeah, the contractor specifically said it would have been nice to, it would have been cheaper and the project would have been cheaper itself if they had just switched to concrete and brought a paver in and done back of curb to back of curb for the trail itself. It would have been a lot simpler and easier. So, I mean, they said that right on the job site. A little bit different from the conversation we had at the beginning of the project, but we have no control over those means and methods.
When I sign a contract for engineering fees, I sign that for the fees for that project. I'm kind of sick and tired of all the time people coming up and saying, hey, you need to owe me this and this and this and this at the end of the thing. I don't like that. Now, I understand that projects sometimes have unexpected expenses, like the bridge did. But it's your responsibility. It's your responsibility solely to put in there how much money or how many hours you think that project's going to take. And that's not us. If you underestimate that, that's on you, as far as I'm concerned. The unexpected stuff, like, that's, if they pour it one in and at the other end and that comes together and that was quicker to them doing it another way, that shouldn't be on us.
But it shouldn't be on Snyder necessarily either.
Well,
It seems to me that the state has a responsibility in this whole thing, because they are the ones that are telling you that you have to use the lowest bidder. And I see that as one of the problems, is that how the state manages their bidding process.
well, I don't think it's the bidding that's that problem. It's not the person that they gave it to. It's as far as the low bid, because that was considerably lower than the other one.
They were doing that on false pretenses. Essentially, they were saying to Snyder, here, it's going to be this way, and then when they presented the material to them, it wasn't that way, and they had the bid. So I see that as a problem we have, not at the local level. We have to pay for it, but I see this as a state problem.
I don't understand.
Won't get any money out of the state,
No?
guarantee that.
Probably won't change their practices, I would suppose, but.
Well, some of this, to me, like the topography and those kind of things, like, that makes sense, we need to
Yes.
cover. I guess, just one more time, okay, we observe these issues where we're moving from one side to the other, and you're here observing these things, or somebody from Snyder, and why after the first one didn't we say, hey, look, this is gonna charge us in the end, I'm coming down here twice as often as I should, stop this, do it this other way?
Yeah, we can't tell them, stop this, do it this other way. That's their means and methods. That's how they chose to do it.
We just
can't
watched
dictate
it,
that.
we observed it, but we didn't,
We do the observation. We can tell them when they're doing something that's against the specs or against the code or against the federal aid requirements, but we can't tell them how to complete their work.
You can make suggestions and, but you cannot dictate their means and methods.
And that's where I'm talking, John, that's the state.
If there was something wrong, John would be there to point it out, whatever it might be. And he did that on numerous times. So we got our money's worth with observation. Sean did an excellent job on site.
And this is the total overrun on a $1.4 million project, is that?
1.5.
I'm just is it
1.5.
It's just,
$1.5 million project? This is the overrun, right? There's no other costs. Just help me remind myself. We haven't approved any other cost, right?
Do we have the final pay app? We don't have the final pay app. We had pay app. We had pay app 13.
Yeah, we've paid up through.
But there's
paid up
no
through 13.
liquidated damages at this point in time. There were change orders. You were putting together a summary of change orders. There were some additional costs. There were some cost savings that we alluded to. I think we reported that out to council a while back. So we'll have that change order. When do you think we'll have the final pay up and change order? I think the grass is growing. I'm hoping we can close this project out this fall and not have to wait till spring.
Sean was remeasuring the curb today. There was
Okay.
some discrepancy between our measurement and the contractor's measurement. So they wanted to get that cleaned up before they got the semifinal pay voucher.
Okay.
So that should, if his remeasurement matches up closer with what they had, and I assume that we'll have that for the next council.
What if we
agenda.
tabled this to the same night so we could see the whole picture?
Yeah.
That work?
I don't have any problem with that.
That work?
I'd entertain a motion to table this thing.
so moved.
Support.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is tabled.
Thank you, Dax.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dax. I'd like to see,
Our first
you know,
point of new business is considering a resolution setting the date for a public hearing and approving the form of notice of hearing, approving the form of notice to bidders, and the approving proposed plans, specifications, proposed form of contract, and engineer's opinion of probable cost for the proposed Spring Street water main replacement project.
Motion to approve for 6 PM Wednesday, November 20th, 2024.
Support.
Motion and support.
We have Patrick with Snyder and Associates here. If you have any questions on the project itself, that section of Spring Street, as you probably are aware, the Public Works has been over there too many times. This was one of the two projects we discussed during the budget process, Spring Street, and then the alley, essentially where the water main is to the west of Pat Klein Park was the other location. This one was a higher priority. The designs and specs are included in here. Patrick is here if you have questions for Patrick on the project. There's a short little summary on page 18, that 640 linear feet in information there, 6-inch PVC, pipe. There are liquidated damages in the contract. $1,000 per day, but do you have any questions on the design? Now's your opportunity to, we've got Patrick here in the room, but we haven't done this for a while. We're bidding this project because of we have to follow the state bid requirements for horizontal infrastructure, and based on the cost, this has to be bid out. So we entered into that agreement here several weeks back with Snyder and Associates to design the project and prepare the bidding documents, which is where we are today.
So you think you got enough hours planned for this?
Sure.
Yeah.
While he's on his way up, our Public Works Department is very familiar with water mains and water installation. Patrick mentioned earlier when, in response to my email, construction observation contract would be coming forward separately. And what we'll probably want to do is discuss with Snyder and Chase and see how we're going to best do that and what hours it's going to take. That's not factored into this this document.
Correct.
This is the bidding document. We have a design agreement. This will be the bid for the project, and then we'll have a construction management supplement.
But don't we need to know what we're engineering to put it out for bid?
That's what, we have that. We have engineering services, but construction management on site, that agreement you don't have before you yet.
We do typically like to see who the low bidder, who we're going to approve the project is before we give a number. If it's a contractor that we've had problems with in the past, I know Boomerang or some other contractors may be a little bit more corner cutting, so we'll try to factor that into our costs, but we'll generally wait until after the bid, come up with the number to present to you for construction services.
And in this case, we'll probably see what we can do in-house as well, related to the project and when it's necessary for Snyder to be down. But
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll call for a roll call.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Motion carries.
thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming down.
Thanks.
Number 2, we would consider the purchase of a storage array from AB Technologies, cost of $50,957.58.
All righty, this is for a storage array that has been end of life for quite some time. We've been having several issues with it. I spent a couple weekends in here fixing it. Last time, I wasn't sure if I could get it up. It actually came back up by a miracle, and so I got with Greg. We started discussing what we could do and what our options were, and Greg and I both came up with some options that we'd presented in there. Greg, can you go over the options that we came up with?
Sure. Well, just outright purchase and financing option, I'm a little reluctant to pay for the financing option. What we're thinking is under the paragraph that says, starts with additionally, servers were budgeted this year. Originally, we thought both of those were 5 years, one of them's 3 years old.
Yep.
And we're going to be replaced this fiscal year. Next year, we have significant costs with Microsoft software, server software, was it?
Yep, yeah, so it'll be all our server software, and that'll be around $40,000 next year.
And we budgeted $40,000 for server replacement this year. So what we're thinking of doing is
Flip-flopping where the array and the
alternating.
servers would be. Right now, the age of the servers are, we have a total of 4 servers. 2 of them are 5 years old right now, and 2 of them are 3 years old. I don't see an issue if you guys want to push those on and kick the can down the road. Don't see us really having issues with those. Well, we're probably about, I can't remember when I brought you guys the storage array. I probably should have looked and see how many years, but it's been end of life for quite a while, so I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to get support of it if it gets above my head. I already know we can't get support for it, so.
Is this the same one you couldn't get drives for?
Yeah, and then I bought some and put them on the shelf.
Okay.
And the last one we had, what it ended up being was, there's 2 controllers in each one. I had an issue where it wasn't communicating, and I kept racking my brain up. I hooked it up to the serial port, went through it, and just by sheer luck, I was going to factory reset it back and restore from backups. When I factory reset the first controller, the second one came back up online and took over. And so then that's how I was able to get it back up the last time. That's pretty scary for me.
My last question, on those 4 servers, we're getting rid of one of those, correct?
Yeah, so it'd be 3 total.
In which time frame are we doing that?
Originally, it was budgeted this year.
Yeah, this year is where we had budgeted for servers, so I was gonna purchase 3 of the servers and discontinue one. So basically what we'd have at any point is we would also have, let's say we do have a server in the next 2 years go down, we would also then have that backup one that we'd be getting rid of anyway to kind of fill in and take over.
You're gonna do all 3 at the same time, not space them out and do 2 at
Yeah,
once?
we've decided to do that because we use VMware right now, and you need the processor architectures to match so they can move between them. And when we space them out, sometimes we can't get the same architecture to make that seamless.
So right now, we've got it in this fashion. I believe you've got about, I don't know if it's in this memo, you had about $80,000, was it, in?
We had 70,000
70?
in, with 20,000 being transferred in at the end of the year.
For this year, so I think we're on track right now. We'll take a look at it again during the budget, but essentially we're looking at swapping these out.
I'd motion to approve with the outright purchase.
Support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Okay, consider a quote from Carl Emergency Vehicles for the installation of emergency equipment for the 2024 Tahoe and we have a correction here. That is, wrong page. $22,729.01.
It's about $500 more than what I had. I attached the wrong quote when I sent it in for the agenda. So the correct quote is what the mayor just read there for $22,729.01.
Is that budgeted somewhere, Jess?
This is for that squad car that was wrecked back earlier this spring. That's the one that's sitting out in the lot right now. So, no, so the answer is no, it's not budgeted.
Was there some insurance that was covering on
Yes.
this also, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
And does this take into consideration equipment we are able to salvage from the old one and move
Yes,
over?
yes,
So
we're
this is
able
the new
to,
stuff we've
yes,
got.
yes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Well, at that point, we've come to the end of our new business. We have no additional citizen inquiries. I would entertain a motion for us to go into closed session in accordance with Iowa Code Chapter 21.5.1J to discuss the purchase of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price of the governmental body would have to pay for that property.
So moved. Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, we move into closed session. Thank you all for...